Okay, we're going to take a look today at the structures of the respiratory system. We are in chapter 22. Sorry, had to shut my door. Okay, so the structures of the respiratory system, you can divide it into the upper and lower respiratory tract. So when we're talking about the upper respiratory tract, you need to know external nose, nasal cavity, pharynx, they're part of the upper respiratory tract. So I could easily ask a multiple choice question over which of the following is not part of the upper respiratory tract. And so I would have external nose, nasal cavity, pharynx, and then maybe trachea down there. And the reverse is true for lower respiratory tract. Those would be the larynx, trachea, bronchi, and lungs. So again, you've kind of got that dividing line right there. Now, here's the thing. The reason why the larynx has an asterisk beside it, depending on what you're reading, what textbook you're reading, the larynx is sometimes put into the upper respiratory tract and other books put it in the lower respiratory tract. So it kind of flip-flops back and forth. For this test, we're using the OpenStax textbook, and the OpenStax textbook puts larynx in the lower respiratory tract. So if you want to remember LL and everything larynx and below is part of the lower, then that might help you out. So definitely know those structures. As far as the nasal cavity goes, I've got it kind of circled here. I am not asking you specifics on the nasal cavity. This was just showing you a picture of, hey, remember what we did in AMP1 when we talked about the different superior, middle, and nasal conchas, inferior nasal conchas? That's just kind of those folds in there. So that's all that was. Just showing you that the nasal cavity is going to be where air comes in. The pharynx is actually separated into three major categories. Okay, so you've got your nasal cavity here. I like the color pictures because you can really see the different sections a little bit better. So you've got the nasal cavity represented in green with the different folds representing the concha. Now, the pharynx is divided into three main sections. You've got your nasopharynx, which is air that's going to be coming in through the nose, right? You're going to have your oropharynx, which is going to be where material comes in through the mouth. Naso is nose, oro is going to be the mouth. And then the laryngopharynx, which is the most inferior of the three sections of the pharynx. Now, the pharynx is where you're going to have both food and air. So it is a passageway for food and air. It separates, food is going to go into one passageway, air is going to go into another at the epiglottis. So the epiglottis is actually where the food is going to go into the digestive system, the esophagus, and then air is going to go into the trachea, but the pharynx is going to contain both. We're going to talk about the soft palate, which is just posterior to the hard palate. So the hard palate and the soft palate are both the upper part of the mouth, the roof of your mouth. The further back you go, the soft palate, and then that's going to turn into the part that dangles down in the back, which is the uvula. Okay. So again, that larynx is going to be part of the lower respiratory tract. The trachea, bronchi, and lungs. So you've got your larynx up here, okay? Now, below that is going to sit the trachea, which is a passageway for air, and that trachea is going to branch off into the right and left lung. The branches, the large branches, are called bronchi, and then as you get smaller and smaller and smaller, they eventually turn into what's called bronchioles. You've got the major bronchi, the primary bronchi, which in this picture it's called mainstream bronchi, and then that's going to separate into secondary bronchi, and then that secondary bronchi is going to divide into tertiary bronchi, and then when you get smaller and smaller, eventually you're going to get into what's called bronchioles. So again, these are just passageways for air. You're going to start off really with a large passageway, the trachea, and those passageways are going to narrow and narrow and narrow until you get to the terminal spot, which is the alveoli. And that's it for objective 1.